of downtown's energy in the office market has been shifting to the northern limits of our city, most of which is along I-10, 281, and 1604. Do you believe this is a problem for downtown San Antonio? And if so, what would you do to change it?
Well, first of all, the way I see it right now is the decade of downtown needs to end. The decade of our districts needs to begin. The north side is growing. I live on the north side, so trust me, I see it growing every single day. I grew up on the west side, and my parents still live there. And I see how our west side is being forgotten. I see how our south side is being forgotten. I have family that lives on the east side, and I see how our east side is being forgotten. And so it is a problem, not for downtown, but for our city. We need to figure out the way that we're going to diversify and how we're going to get with the real estate agents and the developers to develop on those lower income sides of town. San Antonio is not made up of downtown. It's made up of 10 different districts, and those districts deserve quality. And it's time that they have a voice in that quality. And that's why I'm running for mayor, to give them that voice. Thank you.
Candidate number 10.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Number 6.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you all are aware of what happened to the Mission Trailer Park. Nothing but pure gentrification. And why? All in the name of money. It was rezoned without proper authority. Everybody on council voted for it. There's 3 families living out of 1604 and I-35. They're living in shacks now. The city told them that they were going to take care of them. They sure did. No running water, no electricity. That is not right. There is a lot of empty lots, and I do believe that the growth is up to the north. We should reinvent the wheel and start building from the inner city out. I live 3 blocks from Haven for Hope. Currently, that program, while it's good in a way, is taking up a lot of properties. The city condemns properties without even trying to help the people. I stood with a widow of a veteran as they tore down her house, and they insulted the lady by giving her a $3,000 bill. She only makes $450 a month from her husband's income. How can we live with a clear conscience? Ladies and gentlemen, we need to reinvent the wheel and reinvest in the inner city. Thank you.
Thank you. All balls are back in the bowl, just so we're aware. If anybody wants to jump in on that question.
Okay, what's the question again?
Mr. Atkinson? I'm sorry, he just... You're raising it.
I was asking, can you repeat the question, please?
Yes.
Sure. I said, being in the real estate market, it seems to me that much of downtown's energy in the office market has been shifting to the northern limits of our city, most of which has been along I-10, 281, and 1604. Do you believe this is a problem for downtown San Antonio? And if so, what would you do to change it?
Yeah, I've heard the phrase donor communities mentioned, and it's a very real concern for those far north districts. And the best thing that we can do, not only for those far north districts, but also for the south and the central part of the city, is make sure that we don't allow our neighborhoods to degrade. Because when their values go down, it puts great pressure on elected officials at the Commissioner's Court and at the City Council, and that's a rate that everybody pays. So the best thing we can do is stand up on our own 2 feet and respect our neighborhoods. Keep our neighborhoods looking good. Keep the sidewalks and the curbs and the loose animals, dealt with, and the walkability of those communities in place. Keep the place safe, crime-free, safe, and sustainable neighborhoods. And of course, flood control, and expanding local businesses.
Thank you. Apparently everybody wants in on this question. Go ahead.
It does impact. And what I would suggest doing is continuing with building up the inner part of San Antonio. We have to. In doing that, what that does is it stabilizes the market values of the homes that are actually within the city limits. We need to end the urban sprawl, because as we continue to reach out and grab other pieces of property, you know as well as I do, being in real estate, that depreciates the value. So if we create an urban boundary zone that doesn't change and develop the downtown area, everything stabilizes and the price values go up, and that's what people want. They want their property value to go up. And we need to also clean up the east, the south, and the west sides of San Antonio. These people pay their taxes just like the rest, and all the money is going northward. In fact, where I live in District 8, 35% a year, that's exactly how much that area is increasing, more so than the area that you're talking about, 281 and 1604. It's along I-10 that's growing the fastest in San Antonio. And in 25 years, San Antonio is going to have 1.1 million more people. We better start looking at all the other areas in San Antonio, and we better spread it out so that we don't dip into people's property value and we keep spreading out. We need to take care of our city.
Mr. Griffin, next question, please. Okay, in the interest of economic development and economic diversity, and comparing to other city mayors, for example, recently the Los Angeles city mayor, Eric Garcetti's recent recruitment trip to South by Southwest, what plan and personal efforts do you envision to recruit entrepreneurial startups and top talent to the city of San Antonio?
Mayor Taylor.
Thank you. Well, first, before I set out on recruiting startups and entrepreneurs, I want to grow startups and entrepreneurs right here in San Antonio. I think that we have a tremendous opportunity to build and grow from within, and so as mayor, I focus very much on business retention and expansion. We have very viable businesses that are already here, that are already committed to San Antonio, but I've also focused very much on workforce development, because I think there is the opportunity for more San Antonians to have the education and the skill set to be able to fill those jobs that entrepreneurs and businesses that are currently here are creating. And so toward that end, I've been involved in a variety of efforts. Some of them I've partnered with Judge Wolf from Bexar County, but actually tomorrow morning I'll be heading out. Rackspace is working in conjunction with an initiative called Higher Tech to provide pretty quick technical training for IT jobs, and so I think there are a lot of opportunities for us to grow from within, in addition to having a great community that can attract others from outside.
Candidate number 8.
Oh, okay, repeat the question.
Okay. In the interest of economic development and economic diversity, accepting the benefit of utilizing our own resources locally, but in addition to that, recruiting efforts, what would be your plan and personal efforts that you would envision to recruit entrepreneurial startups and top talent to this city?
Okay. On tomorrow or Wednesday, Thursday, I'll be heading to Houston to help elect their mayor. I've been down to Pompano Beach, Florida. There's a guy down there, his name is Harry Shaw. He's developed an engine called a Cyclone engine that will replace the internal combustion engine. And the idea would be to bring him here and we start building those engines. Because you have to think of economics this way. We have a pie that's this large. It doesn't get bigger from the inside, it gets bigger from the outside. Because everybody says, let's do something from the inside. Mr. Abram used to work at the Texas Workforce Commission, and I used to work with him as a mayor. He's already left from Houston, so Ivy Taylor's idea won't work. He's already left to go to where the economy is in Houston. So there's another idea I came up when I was down on the Pompano Beach. It's kind of off the subject. However, they have a big old power plant that's generating energy off of garbage. When you start thinking of things like that, It starts from the inside of here and travel to Houston, to Dallas, to Kansas City, to New York. I will have the most frequent flyer miles in San Antonio Beach.
Thank you very much, sir. Candidate 7.
I was wondering if you had a ball in there for a minute.
Thank you. Well, just to be clear about the rule, you jumped in on the first question, so everybody had to get a shot.
Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you for explaining that. So this is an important piece of when I think about measuring myself in terms of the success of an administration. How are we doing in keeping and attracting well-educated 20 and 30-year-olds? I believe we need to take a two-part approach. Number one is continuing to strengthen and diversify this economy of ours. The biggest challenge we have is a need to upgrade the quality of our workforce. Our biggest employers are scrounging for technically skilled workers, from Toyota to Rackspace to C.H. Gunther & Son, the mill manufacturer. Across the board, healthcare sector, the emerging cybersecurity sector. We need to help grow these sectors by upgrading the quality of our workforce. But on the second part of the plan, we need to maintain and raise up the quality of life here in San Antonio. We need to make San Antonio a place where people want to live, not just work. And I know that many 20 and 30-year-olds are choosing cities where the quality of life is high. And so I want to keep our own 20 and 30-year-olds, and that means enhancing and extending the linear park system, making San Antonio one of the top 10 most bikeable cities, bringing back Uber and Lyft. Our city needs to embrace technology.
Dr. Benson, could you go on to your next question?
What is your plan to deal with the traffic mobility in the city and how it impacts specifically the south side of San Antonio?
Candidate number 5. Mr. Smith?
Thank you very much. We are way behind as far as being able to build enough roads and have enough transportation. And in part that is because of the state of Texas. And so in the foreseeable future, I see that we're still going to be behind because the Texas legislature is not inclined to focus on San Antonio. They're always focusing more on North Texas than they are on San Antonio, which is why I thought it was so appropriate that we develop our communication technology, that we invest in more in education and communication. And some of the candidates have already talked about how we can do that, working with Rackspace, working with other entities. So I would certainly put out a bid so that we can find ways to conduct our city council meetings so that you don't have to go to city council meeting. More ways. We evidently lost an opportunity to bring more high-speed internet to our city, but those are not going to be gone forever. We can go back and try to bring more high-speed internet, more ways for you and I to communicate, and this is the way to get around the transportation issue.
Candidate 13. Yeah, same question.
Okay. Wonderful. We at Commissioner's Court did everything we could to affirm the state's work in our community, and we are the big crossroads of Texas. And that's what's made us who we are over the years, has been the crossroads of I-35 and 10 East and West. What we need to do is we need to be mindful that as we allow our neighborhoods to decline, that people move away from them. We need to have an all-points bulletin for neighborhood strength and growth. It starts with crime-free, safe, and sustainable neighborhoods. It continues with walkability, and then it confirms the decision of people to stay there when they're not flooded out of their homes. These are fundamental things without which you really don't have the basis for a community. So I say, let's make these neighborhoods so attractive that people will say, you know what, I've got a choice. I can move to a lot of places, but I'm going to move into one of the older neighborhoods where
Thank you, sir. Number 12, candidate number 12.
Can you repeat the question, please?
What is your plan to deal with the traffic mobility in the city, specifically how it impacts South San Antonio?
Okay. Well, first of all, I think that San Antonians love their cars, so it's going to be hard to get them out of there. I believe we actually need to increase bus routes. That would be the most cost-effective, at least until we figure out whether there is going to be some type of rail transportation here in San Antonio. But I believe if we increase the bus routes, have express bus lanes for people to travel on, and also for more bike trails. I know that people use the bike trails now, but not often enough. I believe that we need to see how it is that we can get people on bikes. Younger people seem to tend to take them, but the older ones, even the ones that people that say they're green, it's hard to get everybody out of their automobiles, but the only way I can see this without spending cost-payers dollars is to try to work with our VIA bus system to try to make everything more mobile. Thank you.
Thank you. Finishing off this round with the same transportation question to candidate number 6, Mr. Bond.
Well, coming down here was quite an experience, especially at 90 and 35. And then, once again, right down the road here, I guess we all know what the score is. It's nothing but traffic. And we need to unify the city where we carpool more. We not only save gas, we save time, and people can get home quicker. Having said that, the ridership on VIA is terrible. You got these humongous El Primo buses where the ridership is inflated. They spend money, and according to the CEO of VIA, we're not in the business of making money. But really, why are you in business? Why don't we purchase smaller buses, have them come down the road a little bit more quicker, more often? Fredericksburg and 410 is another example. 281 and 1604. It's a parking lot between 3 and 6:30 in the evening.
Thank you. Okay, so all the balls are back in the bowl. And we'll start with another question. Mr. Aguilar.
Could I offer a suggestion? If you pull the balls and tell us which folks will be answering the questions, then they'll be listening closely and we won't have to repeat the question.
Okay. This question will be going to candidates 8, 12, and 13.
Okay. Brief question. What are your thoughts on investment programs for prospective homeowners in areas where redevelopment has been moving at a slower pace than in other parts of town?
Redevelopment in the slower areas?
I'm sorry?
You said redevelopment?
No. Let me clarify one more time. What are your thoughts on investment programs for prospective homeowners in areas where redevelopment has been moving at a slower pace than other parts of town?
Well, I guess that ties to what I was doing. So, there's a multi-billionaire down in New Orleans. His name is Perez Cavalcoff when I met him. After Katrina destroyed New Orleans, when I met this man, he told me, I just lost $300 million. So before I do anything, try anything, first I would probably call him and consult him. What do you think is the best way to fix this problem? Because we have a huge building called the Milam building downtown. And when I saw that building downtown, and I walked in, and I talked to, I think her name was Miss Diane. Oh, Mr. Perez Cavalcoff always wrong by that building. So when you have people that are holding a very expensive piece of real estate downtown, but a multi-billionaire is in New Orleans, want that building, let's get that building rented out for 100% and start generating money.
Candidate 12.
I believe that there's already in place a wonderful program called CASAS that does that. They actually work with Wells Fargo. They are the Wells Fargo people will like grant the family $15,000 to get in. I believe what we need to do is just make the community more aware that that program is available. They actually put brand new homes in the west and the east side right now that I know of for $65,000 to $95,000, along with the down payment being funded by Wells Fargo. So I think what we need to do is just make the community aware that that program is already available. Thank you.
And 13.
I think the biggest thing you can do for the older neighborhoods that are being passed by oftentimes is the city ought to have a more affirmative effort on its neighborhoods. They've got to get into those neighborhoods and make sure that people don't lose faith or lose heart in those neighborhoods. Whether it's the streets it's themselves or just the general condition, code compliance is a biggie, and other walkability factors. But also, I think it's important that we have a way to promote these neighborhoods. I went to an athletic Hall of Fame induction, just for, you can do it academically too. But SAISD, Sil Pettis, Harlandale grad, is the superintendent of SAISD, and he had all these greats from Tobin Road to Clyde Glosson, and all the people. Clyde Glosson ran a 9,200, trying out for the Olympics. Celebrate their greatness. Jimmy Littleton, Cliff Gustafson of South San. Take the best and the brightest that have come academically and also athletically from these schools and celebrate them against the backdrop of all the cynicism and ugliness that often descends upon our older neighborhoods. That's what I think we can do for an initiative for starters.
Thank you. Mr. Cotter, your question will go to candidates 7, 6, and 14. Or let's go 6, 7, and 14, because that makes more sense.
And this question is actually from our audience. What are your goals for the city, and what immediate changes would you like to see?
Thank you. It's a very good question. My goal for the city, senior citizens, the youth, the disabled, and the veterans. Why? Because they've earned it. They need more help, and they need to be educated as far as all the programs that are available to them. My first and number one goal as your mayor is to ensure that justice prevails. And I will do that by terminating the current city manager, because if we are not part of the solution, then we are part of the problem. And someone has to stand up and take the initiative and have the courage to say, you know what, it's time to go. We need to move forward and not be holding everybody back from progressing. And that is my number one goal. Thank you.
Candidate number 7.
My number one goal is to make San Antonio a city of opportunity for our people. This is what that means. It means that those that acquire 21st century skills, either certifications, technical education, or 4-year degrees, see San Antonio as the place to start their businesses, to launch their careers, to find gainful employment, to provide for themselves and their families. Here are some short-term objectives to make that happen. Number one, we need to maintain the strength, the fiscal strength of our city. We have a AAA credit rating from all 3 rating agencies. We're the only city of our size or larger with this. Why is that important? It saves us money. On the last bond issue, it saved us $11 million. In the bond issue coming up in 2017, it's estimated to save us $23 million. That's the difference between being AAA or AA. And so as your mayor, I will apply my background in finance and economics to make sure that our city runs well, so that we can make needed investments in infrastructure and other services that our growing population demands.
My My goal is for our city to continue to be economically competitive in a very strong fashion. We need to invest in ourselves in order to do that, invest in humans through workforce development, but also invest in our capital infrastructure as well. I want to ensure that we have balanced growth throughout our city, that we have safe, stable, mixed income communities spread throughout San Antonio. San Antonians shouldn't feel that when they reach a certain economic status that they have to leave the south side, the east side, or the west side. We have to have great neighborhoods spread throughout the city. We've got to continue to have a smart, fiscally responsible government, and I'll ensure that that happens. But where I need all of you to join in is that we've got to plan for our future so that we can identify what our priorities are and how we want to grow, and then we can directly tie the investments or our priorities, our financial investments to that plan. And I invite you to come out on April 11 for the kickoff meeting for SA Tomorrow, which is an effort that involves 3 critical plans for our city: a comprehensive plan, a transportation plan, and a sustainability plan. And we'll only be successful if everybody in this room gets involved.
Thank you. Mr. Griffin, your question for candidates 5, 9, and 11.
Okay. To actually parlay on Ms. Mayor's comments, as the perceived chief designer for the city's urban planning and development, what design philosophy and goals are you envisioning to continue to bring the city of San Antonio into the global spotlight?
Okay, thank you very much. And really, in my mind, a lot of these questions all blend together, and I think it's very appropriate that the questioners are focusing on these, and I'm glad that everyone is here. And I wanted to reemphasize Mayor Taylor's position that if you all are more involved, if we're having more communication, we're going to be able to do this. You're saying that just from a design point of view, I say communication. Why can't we move forward and move this city as far as we possibly can into the 21st century in leading, setting a paradigm, a model for, urban communication, for a way to, our million population and even Bexar County to be more effective communicators, more town hall meetings, more ways for us to interact on the internet, using technology instead of having to build transportation infrastructure.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. What I think that we need to do is, first and foremost, since we are a vacation destination for a lot of people around the world, and we need to capitalize on that, I believe that we need to clean up our city. There's too much trash and debris along the freeway and the roads. We need to also plant some beautiful flowering trees that are indigenous to this area that will survive the drought. We also need to lower the crime rate in the south, the east, and the west parts of town so that people want to move back into these neighborhoods so that everyone can feel safe. Now, how do we do that? Did some research. Just by adding street lighting, you can lower your crime rate by 25%. By cleaning up the neighborhood, cutting the grass, you can improve the neighborhood, the way that it looks, and also lower the crime rate simultaneously. Lastly, improve the transportation. I know you don't like playing bumper cars every day of your life, living like a sardine, going to HEB or to the mall or to work, but we need to improve the transportation, and one of the things that I would do immediately would be to create an ordinance that causes all buses, trucks, trailers, RVs to the right lane, and then also to impose, just let me finish my sentence please, to put these 7-foot black tarps that surround the accidents so that we get rid of rubbernecking. And doing those two things will improve our congestion and roadways.
Right now, Comal County and Hays County are the fastest growing county in the state of Texas. And before you know it, Austin's going to catch up to San Antonio, and we're going to become 1 megaplex. That's what they're expecting in the next by 2040. San Antonio needs to get on board very quickly because we're going to become Austin, San Antonio before we can become San Antonio, Austin if we don't. And so with that said, what we need to do is we need to start working with our universities and our high schools. We need to start as early as possible to include, maybe as early as the 3rd grade, to make sure that we have an educated workforce to take the lead in this. Because I guarantee you that while as the mayor of San Antonio, we will become San Antonio, Austin before we are Austin, San Antonio. And that means that we have to work with companies like Rackspace, USAA, Toyota to continue to build and diversify our economy as much as possible. We want to develop an economic system here in San Antonio where people want to come to San Antonio